The pitch from Acevedo.
Swung on the line down the left field line for a base hit.
Fly ball, gap, right center field. And
Double him up at second.
Luke is going back to the 1-8 track. Get out the right, run and Buster Grandma. It is grand salami time.
will send Seattle to the American League Championship Series for the first time in 24 years.
Hello and welcome back to the Like W podcast. As always, I am your host, Mahal. And here we are on Sunday morning to discuss the trade. Time of recording Sunday, August 2nd, 9:23 a.m. I just woke up. I was going to record last night, but I was at Ed Sheeran as soon as this trade dropped, and it was just not happening. It was not going to happen to be able to record an emergency podcast about this Luis Castillo trade last night. So here I am, Sunday morning, the morning after, ready to discuss this trade. Here's what we're going to do, right? Because we're going to have our normal Monday morning episode, of course, that I record later this evening. And we're going to go more into depth about this trade on that episode. So this episode is going to be more of just an instant reaction, the type of reaction I would have had last night before I fully dug into it. And then we're going to get into numbers and the fun stuff, the nitty gritty, on tomorrow's episode about this trade. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm really interested by this trade. It's a weird trade, but I think it's a trade that the Mariners, I think, did pretty well in. Obviously, if you haven't seen, Luis Castillo was traded to the Chicago White Sox for Anthony Dominguez, Nolan Jones, and Boston Smith. Anthony Dominguez, obviously, is the one that will help on the field right now. This is another Edward Bizarro, basically, but with more strikeout. This is a guy that, over the course of his career, has pitched a lot of high-leverage innings. This is a guy that, for the Blue Jays, pitched high-leverage innings in the postseason, down the stretch, and in the World Series last year. So this is a guy that's very experienced, a guy that knows what he's doing, and a guy that gets a lot of swing and miss and a lot of strikeout, which is something that this Mariners bullpen has desperately been needing, especially from that right side. His issue, though, is that he does give up some walks. Now, the question I think I would have for the Mariners is, how are you going to rein in those walks a little bit? Obviously, there's something that they like here if they're acquiring him. And how do you plan to use him? Because, I don't think that the Mariners are planning to use Anthony Dominguez as a super high leverage reliever. I don't think that they think this is the solution to their bullpen here at this deadline. I don't think that they think this is the best reliever that they should be acquiring. I don't think this takes them out of conversations for Luke Weaver, Adrian Morejon, different guys around the league, guys with the Giants, guys with the Reds. I don't think this takes them out of those conversations. But you've been needing another right-handed reliever, a guy that can get righties out consistently, so you don't have to use Spire and Ferrer all the time against righties. You've been needing that guy, a guy that can put out fires, a guy with strikeout. That's what you've been needing. Now, Dominguez can start his own fires. Dominguez can do all these different things. But I think this is a really good add to this Mariners bullpen. I think it's really interesting, and I think it has the chance to be really successful, getting some of that experience in there. And you've been needing another Edward Bizarro, a mid-innings, high-leverage type of guy, the guy that has experience now alongside a Bizarro, and a guy that means that you just don't have to throw Bizarro every day and allows you to have a longer, deeper bullpen. That's what you've been needing. However, you still need that second Matt Brash type of guy, obviously, and I think that move might be coming. And I think if you tell me that by 3 p.m. Monday, the Mariners have added a Luke Weaver type, a second Matt Brash in the bullpen type of guy, alongside this Anthony Dominguez, I think I'll be happy with how the bullpen's looking. I think that'll be a great deadline for how the bullpen should shake out. And I mean, alongside that, this bullpen's going to get some help by just getting 8 guys. right? I think that's the biggest thing. And before I get into Nolan Jones, Boston Smith, the return there, like Luis Castillo is gone. And I want to kick off this conversation by just saying thank you. Thank you, Chill Rock. Thank you, Luis. You were an awesome Mariner. You really did signal the change. Signal the change in the Mariners' eras. You're what really kickstarted that 2022 season, the drought-ending year. You were what allowed this team to really ultimately make the postseason. And there are some games that you pitched that I'll never forget. Obviously, the first one that a lot of people are going to go to is the AL Wild Card Game 1 against the Blue Jays, first playoff game since 2001. My first playoff game as a Mariners fan, my first playoff game watching my baseball team in the playoffs, it was really special. And all the nerves that I think the entire fan base had, that the entire team had, it was a young team at that time. All those nerves you were able to put to bed with your experience, with your leadership, and with your dominance over those Blue Jays. It was really, really, really special. And that's something I'll never forget watching that at school. And, you know, that's a core memory for me. I also put his first T-Mobile Park start, Garrett Cole against Luis Castillo. This is a game that went 13 innings, something like that, before Luis Torrens eventually was able to walk it off for the Mariners. And I mean, that's another one of those games that is forever going to be a game that I remember. I remember sitting in the dark watching that game on my laptop. I remember when Matt Brash came to pitch and they got all those crazy double plays because of the ghost runner on second base. I remember that game as if it was yesterday. And Luis Castillo started that game, and he was really dominant in that game in his first T-Mobile Park start. I remember going to the ballpark for those first couple years, probably 2.5 years of Luis Castillo on the Mariners, and always wanted that to be the guy that I would go see. It was the first time since Felix probably that there was a starter that I was like, I want to go see that guy over the rest of the rotation. And that was special. That was something we didn't have. It was something that really changed the way this team was, changed the way that the future of the Mariners needed to be at the time. And he was the first trade that really was risky, that was, trading some elite top prospects to go and get some return for the now. And he extended here, and he had a couple good years here, and I thank him for everything. 2026 was not where we needed him to be, obviously, and hopefully we can right the ship now, having a 5-man rotation very likely once again. But I can't give enough thanks to Luis Castillo. I hope you do well in Chicago. I hope you go win that division. You bring some leadership there. You were always a great guy in the clubhouse. I know the Mariners are going to miss you there. So yeah, obviously Luis Castillo not listening to this, but I want to thank Luis Castillo. Now, on the baseball side of things, obviously, like I said, the leadership that he brought, that is gone. But the Mariners get out of that 6-man rotation, and they've been needing to. But that's not even the biggest part of this, I think. The biggest part of this is that you were able to trade that contract. And that's impact for now and for next year. That's impact that could allow you to extend Logan Gilbert. That is something that would allow you to potentially make some more moves here before the deadline with more money. This is good, okay? Getting out of that contract, getting off Luis Castillo. Of all the starters, he was going to net the lowest return, right? But you got a solid return, and you got to keep those other 5 guys. Now, there's the potential one of the other ones could be traded. I doubt it's here at the deadline, to be honest. I don't think you're going to want Kid Anderson starting every 5 days for you, and he's going to be on a pitch limit, so I doubt that they want to do that. But, I mean, something crazy could happen. You never know with Jerry and Justin. Something totally crazy could absolutely happen. And I think that's something to keep an eye on. I think something to think about. But I expect this team to sit in a 5-man rotation right now, and I think that's the right move. I think that's the right move. And now you get 8 guys back in the bullpen, which is a really big deal. This team has been in a 7-man bullpen for 2 months, 2.5 months. How many games have they won with that 7-man bullpen? I don't know. And the offense has been an issue, but how many games has the bullpen blown? How many times has it gotten to the 7th, 8th inning or in a 1-run, 2-run lead and the bullpen blows it? It feels like it happens multiple times a week. Multiple times a week. It feels like it's the difference between us in first place right now. Us in 500 right now. Right? Doesn't it? I can't be the only one thinking that. But you got out of Luis Castillo, and I think that's a really big deal. He hasn't been up to par with what you needed him to be here in 2026. He was the worst one of your starters. I dreaded each start for him here in 2026. He got out of it, got the starter moved. Now you got a lot of space to do a lot of different things here with this entire team. All right, you got a lot of space to do different moves. It sounds like it's a while before Matt Brash is back, probably end of the month. Cooper Criswell, we haven't really heard anything, probably around the same time, if not later. Carlos Vargas is Carlos Vargas. So you needed to open up some space in this bullpen, and you got a bullpen arm also alongside of it. So I think this is a really, really savvy move by the Mariners. I'm really, really excited about it, really happy about it. But I think I'm mostly just intrigued to see kind of where they go from here. I don't think this really limits you with anything. It makes your team a little bit better right now with Seranthony Dominguez. But you can still do all the other moves you wanted to make. You can still go get that batter two that you wanted. You can still go get that reliever that you wanted and should go get that reliever that you've been wanting. I think that should happen. And certainly Dominguez making a little bit of money here, but I don't think that should hamstring the Mariners here. I really don't. I don't think it should. I don't think it should hamstring them from going and getting another reliever that's on a little bit of money, like Luke Weaver. I think that's going to be a really, really interesting thing to see how it goes the next couple of days. It sounds like the Mariners have been interested in Weaver. I'd love to see them go get Luke Weaver tagged to the back end of this bullpen. If you're telling me your deadline bullpen acquisitions are Luke Weaver and Seranthony Dominguez, love it. Fantastic. Go get Matt Brash back here at the end of the month, and let's frickin' ride. Let's frickin' ride. Mariners country. Let's ride. Right? Now that's going to be more interesting now how they go about it. Obviously, you can use your prospects. You can. It didn't have to be trading a starting pitcher for a bat. And they still could do that theoretically. Bring back Robbie Ray. Trade a starter, bring back Robbie Ray and get something else. Trade a little prospect capital as well. Robbie Ray and Helio Ramos. That would be crazy. That would be freaking nuts. Can you imagine? That's something Jerry would absolutely do, too. Something he'd absolutely do. But a lot of rumors about Ryan Waldschmidt for the Mariners being somewhat of interest. I think that could make a lot of sense. I think they need someone a little bit more proven, though, for the impact here in 2026. Speaking about impact not in 2026, Mariners also got Boston Smith in this deal, who was ranked by Pipeline, so as the 15th best prospect in the White Sox system. Let me see. Does Fangraphs have him ranked? He's had a breakout season here. For the Chicago White Sox across 3 levels, he's been very, very good. And he's a really interesting guy. His first year of pro ball here, and he's raked. He's absolutely raked. So I think this is an interesting get for the Mariners. He's a guy that can catch, but also play outside in the outfield. I think this is a potential type of guy that, is going to be able to maybe hit at the big league level. He's shown to be able to hit already in Double-A. And he's 23 years old, so he's a little bit advanced, but he's probably still a year or 2 away. But this is the type of super utility type of guy, right? This is the type of guy that can catch for you in a pinch, but also this is a guy that can play in the outfield, a guy that maybe you can see if he can play third base, second base. But if he can play both corner outfield spots, maybe even center field and catcher, maybe even first base, right? I think that's a really valuable piece, and I think it's really interesting. It's a really interesting get for the Mariners. They're buying high on him. I think that's part of the reason why he's able to be in this deal, because he doesn't necessarily have the helium that other prospects might have. But it's an interesting get, especially with the way he's hit. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings. The last piece the Mariners got, Nolan Jones. This is a guy that had one really good season in 4 or 5 at the big league level. That was in Colorado, so take it with a grain of salt. He hasn't been very good outside of that. Hasn't even appeared in the big leagues here in this year. For the White Sox, he's been in AAA where he's got like an OPS of like 815, 820, something like that. So he's been all right. He'll probably rake in the PCL. Mariners fans will probably all call for him to be called up because he's the solution. Nolan Jones, he's the truth. And if he does get called up, he'll probably suck. And that's all right. All right. But the Mariners got out of Luis Castillo. That's the biggest thing here. They got all that money taken up, and they have the ability to go do more moves. It's up to Jerry and Justin to do those more moves. Luke Weaver, future Mariner. Let's make it happen. Let's get a series win here Sunday. As always, thank you so much for listening. Go Nerves. Peace.